Hey there! Today, we're diving into an idea that's honestly a game changer for anyone who designs and builds things for a living. We're talking about how tiny, consistent actions can, over time, lead to absolutely remarkable results. As architects, engineers, designers, we're literally paid to create perfect systems, right? We have to see the whole blueprint before a single brick is laid. But what if that instinct, that drive for perfection, is actually a trap? What if it's the one thing that's really holding us back from making real, tangible progress? That's the big question we're tackling. And that leads us right into our first big idea here, the trap of perfection. We all know this feeling, don't we? That need to have this huge, flawless, perfect plan before we can even think about starting. We get it in our heads that to have massive success, we need some massive, earth-shattering action. And that puts so much pressure on us, right? We have to come up with that one defining moment, that one big idea. But the truth is, the real power, as we're about to see, is in the small, almost invisible improvements that you make day in and day out. Okay, so this is a really crucial distinction. It's the difference between being in motion and taking action. Motion is all the planning, the strategizing, the learning, and it feels like progress, doesn't it? But it's not. Action, well, action is what actually produces an outcome. And let's be real, a lot of us get stuck in motion because it's safe. It lets us feel productive without ever having to face the risk of actually failing. So, if aiming for that one big, perfect plan is a trap, then what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to the really cool part, the power of 1%. We're going to look at the incredible, almost magical math behind tiny little gains. Think about it. Just getting 1% better each day for a year. I mean, it sounds like nothing, right? 1% is so small you'd barely even notice it. But what do you think happens when you actually commit to that tiny, tiny improvement, day after day after day? Well, the result is absolutely staggering. You're not just 365% better at the end of the year. No, thanks to the magic of compounding, you are 37 times better. That's because these tiny gains, they don't just add up, they multiply. And this graph just illustrates that point perfectly. Just look at that curve. At the beginning, the difference between getting 1% better and 1% worse, it's basically nothing. It's a flat line. But look at what happens over time. Those two paths diverge dramatically. Every single one of your daily choices is compounding, for better or for worse. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine an airplane taking off. If the pilot adjusts the course by just 1 or 2 degrees, at takeoff, you wouldn't feel a thing. It's insignificant. But over a flight from, say, LA to New York, that tiny change means you land in a completely different city. And it's the exact same thing with our daily habits. And this brings us to a concept from the author James Clear. He calls this an atomic habit. And it's not just some small routine, right? It's a fundamental building block. Think about it. Just like atoms are the building blocks for molecules, these atomic habits are the building blocks for incredible, remarkable results. They're tiny, but they are so, so powerful. All right, so the principle makes sense, but how do we actually do this? How do we apply it? Well, this next part is for all you builders out there. We're going to call it Design Your Way Forward, and we're going to use tools and concepts you're already super familiar with to get things moving. And here's the key thing. As designers and engineers, you already know this deep down. When you have a goal but the solution isn't crystal clear, you don't just hide behind more planning. No, you get your hands dirty. You brainstorm, you improvise, you iterate. You literally build your way to the answer. This is basically the design thinking process in a nutshell, right? You start by brainstorming some wild ideas. Then you build small, cheap prototypes, and then you test them. The whole point of a prototype isn't for it to be perfect. Its whole point is to help you learn something. It's how you get actual data and take the fear out of some big, scary launch. And this ties in perfectly with a great quote from Warren Buffett. He said, "Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing." See, we think taking that first small step is the big risk. But Buffett's saying the real risk is doing nothing because you don't know enough. Building those small prototypes, that's how you learn what you're doing. That's how you reduce the real risk, one little step at a time. So this kind of brings us to the real heart of the matter, the emotional core of it all. Because a lot of the time, the bottleneck isn't our ability to plan or our ability to design. It's about having the courage to just begin.
I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves for a second. Most of the time, we have enough of a plan to get started. The thing that's really stopping us, it's fear. Fear that we'll fail, fear that people will judge us, fear that our work won't be perfect. And that fear is the anchor that keeps us stuck in motion instead of taking action. Which means we really need to rethink what courage even is. Courage isn't being fearless. No one is fearless. Courage is feeling that fear, acknowledging it's there, and taking action anyway. It's about being willing to be vulnerable, to put something out there that might not work because you know that what you'll learn from it is totally worth the risk. There's this really powerful, almost magical idea that when you finally commit, the universe kind of conspires to help you. That simple act of taking the first tiny step somehow unlocks doors. It leads to opportunities, people, and resources that you never ever could have planned for.
Okay, which brings us to our final and most important section. We've seen the trap, we get the principle. So now let's focus on the only thing that really matters. Your next step is small. Just think about it. It is absolutely remarkable the kind of knowledge you can build if you just don't stop learning. And it's remarkable the kind of business you can build if you just don't stop working at it day after day. Because here's the bottom line, the main takeaway from all of this. Small habits don't just add up, they compound. So really, the single most important thing you can do if you take anything away from this is this. Stop thinking so much and just start doing. And I want to leave you with this incredible quote. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So don't wait for the perfect plan. The magic isn't just starting. Begin it now.